I mocked the wrong man at the wrong gas station on the wrong Tuesday morning. I know that sounds like the setup to a bad joke, but I wasn't laughing when it happened. I was standing next to Pump 7 at a Shell station off Route 19 in Clearwater, Florida, wearing a faded Carhartt jacket and 3-day stubble, trying to get my debit card to work on a machine that kept declining it. The magnetic strip was worn down. I'd been meaning to get a new card for 6 weeks. That's when the black Escalade pulled in. I noticed it the way I notice everything, automatically without deciding to. Old habit, tinted windows, chrome rims that cost more than most people's monthly rent, a Vanderbilt University parking sticker in the corner of the windshield. 4 of them got out. College age, maybe early 20s. The kind of loud that comes from never once having been told to lower their voice. I went back to fighting with the card reader. Hey, I didn't look up. Hey, old man, you need help or something? I looked up then. The one talking was maybe 22, built like someone who'd spent a lot of time at the gym, but none of it doing anything useful. Polo shirt, khakis, boat shoes with no socks despite it being 61 degrees outside. He was grinning at me the way guys like that grin, like the whole world was a joke only they were in on. I'm fine, I said. Your card not working? He looked back at his friends and they all laughed at something I hadn't said. You know they have a thing called a phone app now, right? You don't have to use actual plastic like it's 1987. I got the card to work on the 5th try, pressed regular, started pumping. Nice jacket, one of the others said. The one with the mirrored sunglasses standing slightly behind the first, like a backup singer who hadn't learned his cue yet. My grandfather had one exactly like that. We buried him in it. More laughing. I finished pumping. Replaced the nozzle. Screwed the gas cap back on slowly. Took a breath. There was a coin in my jacket pocket. I'd been carrying it for 11 years. It's called a challenge coin. Military units make them. Trade them. Give them as marks of respect. This one was titanium, about the size of a silver dollar, with an embossed anchor on one side and a trident on the other. It was given to me by a man named Admiral Frank Sutter on the deck of the USS George H.W. Bush in the North Arabian Sea on the morning of October 4th, 2013. He'd pressed it into my palm after a mission I still can't discuss in any documentation that isn't classified above top secret. He said, "You carry this until you find someone who earns it." I'd been carrying it for 11 years because nobody had earned it yet. I keep it because it's the only thing I have left from that part of my life that I chose. Everything else was taken eventually, or faded, or got buried in a cemetery in Clearwater 8 years ago when my wife, Amy, died of a brain aneurysm at 41 years old while I was in a debrief 600 miles away and didn't make it back in time to say goodbye. The coin is the last thing I touch every morning and the first thing I reach for when I can't sleep. Boat Shoes spotted it when I pulled my hand out of my pocket to put on my gloves. His eyes caught the glint. "What's that?" "Nothing." "Let me see it." "No." He stepped toward me, not aggressive exactly, more like the casual certainty of someone who'd never been told no and meant it. He grabbed my wrist. "Now, here's what I want you to understand. I'm 31 years old. I look older than that because of sun and salt air and 12 years of doing things in places that don't appear on any news broadcast. I spent 6 years as a Navy SEAL, made it to senior chief, ran 3 combat deployments, worked 2 years on special assignment with a joint task force I wasn't allowed to mention even to my own father until he died. After Amy died, I got out. I moved back to Clearwater because she'd always wanted to retire there. I work security consulting now. Quiet, mostly remote, mostly boring. I drive a 2009 F-150 with a cracked dashboard, and I get my coffee at a diner called Patsy's on Palmetto Street, where a woman named Ruth has been pouring it for 23 years. I do not look like someone who can end a situation in 4 seconds flat without raising my voice. He grabbed my wrist, and I let him because the alternative was a felony charge in a gas station parking lot, and that would have been a waste of everyone's time. He turned my hand over and plucked the coin out of my palm, held it up to the light. "Military thing?" he said. "What branch?" Like the National Guard or something? Give it back. Chill out. He was tossing it in the air now, catching it. I'm just looking. That belongs to someone who isn't you. Give it back. Or what? He smiled, slow and lazy. He looked back at his friends again. This was a performance. He needed an audience. What are you going to do, old man? Call the cops. My dad owns half the city council. He plays golf with the chief of police every Saturday morning. So, he pocketed the coin, actually put it in his front pocket and patted it twice. Why don't you head home and watch your stories or whatever it is you people do? I stood very still. There are things they teach you in training, and there are things you only learn when someone you love is gone, and there's nothing left to be reckless with. Patience is one of those things. The ability to look at a situation and understand that this moment, the one that feels like it requires an immediate response, is almost never the right moment. That the man who waits almost always wins over the man who reacts. I walked to my truck. I heard them laughing behind me. One of them said something I won't repeat. Another one made a sound effect. I sat in the driver's seat for 45 seconds with my hands on the steering wheel. Breathed in through the nose, out through the mouth, 4 counts each. Then I reached under the center console and pulled out a phone. Not my regular phone. A secondary unit, encrypted, registered to a shell company in Delaware with a single contact preloaded. No name. Just a number with a 703 area code. Northern Virginia. The kind of number that rings in a building without a public address. I pressed call. It rang twice. This line hasn't moved in 2 years, said the voice. His name is Brendan. That's all I'll say about him. We served together. He went a different direction than I did after getting out. I need a favor, I said. How big? Small on my end. Probably significant on yours. Talk. There's a kid at a shell station off Route 19 in Clearwater. He just took something that belonged to me. I need to know who he is, and I need a face to go with the name in the next 10 minutes. A pause. I could hear keys in the background. There's a camera on that station, Brendan said. It wasn't a question. There always is. 40 seconds of silence. Then, you're looking for a Spencer Aldrich, 23 years old. Student at USF Tampa. Business major, 3rd year. Father is Robert Aldrich. Commercial real estate, somewhere north of $40 million in assets. Significant donations to the Pinellas County political infrastructure going back about a decade. 3 prior incidents in the county system, all resolved without charges. Looks like Daddy made some calls. I felt something settle in my chest. The specific quiet that comes from understanding the full shape of a problem. The father, I said. What's his exposure? You mean legally or otherwise? Start with otherwise. More keys. SEC inquiry closed without action 2021. Civil suits settled out of court 2022 and DA attached. Business partner filed a complaint with the Florida bar. The partner later withdrew it. Pattern of resolution that suggests either very good lawyers or very good relationships. Probably both. Brendan paused. You want me to keep going? No, I said. I have what I need. One more thing. There's a secondary number I'm going to need you to route a call through for me. Which one? I told him. Brendan was quiet for a moment. That's a big ask. I know. You sure? I thought about Amy. I thought about October 4th, 2013, and a man pressing a titanium coin into my palm on a flight deck in the Arabian Sea. I thought about 11 years of carrying something that meant more to me than most people would ever understand, and a 23-year-old in boat shoes patting his front pocket twice. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. The number Brendan routed me to belongs to a man I'll call the deputy director. It's not his exact title, but it's close enough. I worked under his authority for 14 months during my special assignment. He is not someone who takes calls from former enlisted men on Tuesday mornings for no reason. He took mine in under 3 minutes. I heard you retired, he said. Consulting, I said. Same thing, a beat. What do you need? I told him. All of it. Spencer Aldrich, Robert Aldrich, the coin, the gas station. The 3 prior incidents resolved without charges, the county council connections, the chief of police playing golf every Saturday morning. He listened without interrupting. That's one of the things I've always respected about him. He doesn't perform listening, he actually does it. When I finished, he said, "The coin was your wife's. It was mine. But I was going to give it to her. I just ran out of time." Silence. "Give me an hour," he said. "I'd rather have 30 minutes." He made a sound that might have been a laugh. 45. I drove to Patsy's and let Ruth pour me a coffee. I sat at the counter and drank it slowly and watched the parking lot through the window. I wasn't agitated. I wasn't running scenarios. I've learned hard that agitation is a form of arrogance. It assumes your involvement will change the outcome, that the universe is waiting on you to panic before it proceeds. It isn't. Things move whether you're composed or not. Better to be composed. Ruth refilled my cup without being asked. She's been doing that for 3 years. She doesn't know what I used to do. She knows I take my coffee black and that I tip well, and that whenever I come in on a day when the weather's bad, I always ask how her son is doing in Tallahassee. "You look like you're thinking hard about something," she said. "Just tired," I said. She nodded like she believed me and moved down the counter. 28 minutes after I'd sat down, my encrypted phone buzzed. A text from Brendan. No words, just a link. I clicked it. It was a live updating document. The kind of thing that only exists in systems I'm not supposed to know still have my access credentials. There was a lot of information on it. I'll summarize the parts that matter. At 10:14 a.m., a federal compliance review had been remotely initiated on Aldrich Commercial Properties LLC, Aldrich Holdings Group, and 2 associated LLCs registered in Florida and Nevada. The request had been flagged as priority by the initiating office and assigned to 2 separate field teams in the Tampa division. At 10:21 a.m., Robert Aldrich's primary legal counsel received a certified communication regarding a reopening of the 2021 SEC matter on the basis of newly surfaced documentation. At 10:29 a.m., the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office received an inquiry from the State Attorney's Office regarding the 3 prior incidents involving Spencer Aldrich, specifically whether proper procedure had been followed in each resolution. The inquiry was copied to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. At 10:31 a.m., Spencer Aldrich's USF Tampa student account was flagged by the university's Financial Compliance Office because his scholarship, a partial athletic scholarship, as it turned out, had been cross-referenced against a federal financial aid audit that had been quietly, automatically, bureaucratically initiated that morning. None of these things were dramatic. No black helicopters. No SWAT teams. No one kicked in any doors. That's not how it actually works, despite what movies tell you. What actually happens is that the machinery of consequence moves into position, quietly, like water finding the lowest point in a room. It is patient and it is thorough, and it does not care who your father plays golf with on Saturday mornings. I finished my coffee, thanked Ruth, left $6 on the counter for a $4 cup, walked out into the clear water morning, which had gotten slightly warmer while I was inside. My phone, my regular phone, rang at 11:02 a.m. Unknown number, Florida area code. Is this? A voice. Male, older, tight with something that was trying very hard not to be panic. "I'm trying to reach the man from the gas station this morning. On Route 19. Speaking," I said. A long pause. "My name is Robert Aldrich. I know who you are." Another pause, longer. "I know who you are." Another pause, longer. "My son did something this morning that was." He stopped. "Started again. He behaved badly. I understand that. He took something from you." "He did. I've been made aware of some. There are some inquiries that have been initiated today that seem to be." He stopped again. He was a man accustomed to controlling conversations, and he had lost control of this one before it started. "I'd like to resolve this." "The coin," I said. "That's the only resolution I'm interested in." "Of course." No hesitation. "Absolutely. Spencer will return it personally. Today, if you'd like. We can come to wherever. I'll tell you where to be and when," I said. "And Mr. Aldrich?" "Yes." "The 3 prior incidents." the ones that were resolved without charges. The people involved in those, I'm going to need Spencer to personally contact each of them. Written apology, hand-delivered. Not typed, handwritten. This week. Silence. Is that he cleared his throat? Is that all? I thought about it. One more thing. The chief of police you golf with. You're going to stop calling him when Spencer does something wrong. That relationship is going to stay exactly as professional as it's supposed to be from now on. A very long pause. When Robert Aldrich spoke again, his voice had changed. Smaller somehow. Like something that had been inflated had slowly let out the air. "Who are you?" he said. It wasn't aggressive. It was genuinely bewildered. The question of a man staring at a door he'd thought was solid and discovering it was painted onto a wall. I thought about Amy, about a Tuesday in August 13 years ago when she dragged me to a farmer's market in Clearwater against my will, and I'd stood there in 90-degree heat being irritable about it until she bought me a mango popsicle, and I'd instantly stopped being irritable because it was the best thing I'd ever tasted. I thought about the way she laughed, the specific frequency of it, how I used to be able to hear it through walls. "Someone who misses his wife," I said. Spencer Aldrich was 19 minutes late to the meeting place I'd chosen, which was the parking lot of a Publix on Gulf to Bay Boulevard. He came alone, which told me his father had coached him, and he'd actually listened for once in his life. He was 23, and he looked younger in the daylight than he had that morning, without his friends around him. He was still wearing the khakis and the boat shoes. He had the coin in his right hand, held slightly forward, like someone approaching a dog they weren't sure about. He held it out to me without speaking. I took it, pressed it in my palm the way I always do. The titanium was warm from being in his pocket. "I'm sorry," he said. He said it the way people say things when they've been told to say them. But somewhere in the middle of saying them, they realize they actually mean it. A little surprised by their own sincerity. I didn't know what it was. I mean, that doesn't make it okay that I took it, but I didn't know. "No," I agreed. "You didn't." He looked at the coin for a second. "What is it?" "If you don't mind me asking." "It's a challenge coin. You earn one when someone who outranks you decides you've done something worth recognizing." "What did you do?" I looked at him for a moment. He was 23 years old, and his father had been cleaning up after him his whole life, and somewhere in there was a person who might still turn into something decent if someone stopped protecting him from consequences before it was too late. "Something I can't tell you," I said, "but the man who gave it to me told me to carry it until I found someone who earned it." Spencer looked at the coin in my hand. Then he looked at me. Something moved across his face that I didn't expect. Something that looked almost like understanding, or the beginning of it anyway, the first millimeter of a very long road. The other incidents," he said. "My dad told me about the letters." "Good. I'll do it. I'm going to do it." He said it like a promise to himself more than to me. The girl from sophomore year especially. I've thought about that a lot, what I did. I didn't respond to that. It wasn't mine to respond to. He nodded once, like punctuating something internal. Then he turned to go. "Spencer." He stopped. "You're 23, I said. "That's not old. There's still time to be someone different." I paused. "But time doesn't wait around. Take that seriously." He didn't say anything. Just stood there for a second with the Florida sun at his back and a look on his face that I couldn't entirely read. Then he walked to his car and drove away. I stood in the Publix parking lot and turned the coin over in my fingers. Anchor on one side, trident on the other. Cool again now, back to its normal temperature. I thought about what Admiral Sutter had said. Carry it until you find someone who earns it. I put the coin back in my pocket. Not today, but maybe, and for the first time in 11 years I actually meant this. Maybe eventually. If he does the work. If he becomes someone worth giving it to. Some things you can't shortcut. Some things you have to earn in the dark. Slowly, without anyone watching. Amy knew that. She tried to teach it to me for 15 years, and I was a slow learner. I'm better at it now. Being slow changes when the lesson costs enough. I drove home, made lunch, called my sister in Pensacola because I hadn't called in 2 weeks and she worries. The coin was in my pocket the whole time. That's where it stays. I've thought about that Tuesday a lot since it happened. Not the part where things went my way, that part I expected once I made the call. What I keep coming back to is the 45 seconds I sat in my truck before I did anything at all. Hands on the wheel, breathing, just deciding what kind of person I was going to be in the next hour. That pause cost me nothing, and it changed everything. I think about Spencer a lot too. 23 years old, boat shoes, the easy grin of someone who'd never once looked at a consequence and had to live inside it. He wasn't a monster. That's the thing I want to be honest about. He was a kid who had been insulated from reality so completely and for so long that he genuinely didn't know the insulation was there. He thought that was just how the world worked, that there were people who mattered and people who didn't, and that he had been born on the right side of that line. Nobody had ever shown him the line wasn't real. His father spent $40 million making sure of it. What Robert Aldrich thought he was doing for his son was protecting him. I understand the instinct. I don't have kids, but I understand love, and I understand fear. And I understand how those two things can combine into something that looks like care, but is actually deprivation. Every time Robert cleaned up after Spencer, he stole something from him. The chance to learn that actions have weight, that the world is not organized around his comfort, that there are people walking around in worn-out jackets who could dismantle everything his father built before lunchtime if they decided to. Spencer didn't know that, because nobody had ever let him find out. I wasn't trying to teach him a lesson when I made that call. I want to be clear about that. I made the call because a coin that belonged to the memory of my wife was in his front pocket, and I wanted it back. That was the whole calculation. But somewhere in the middle of what followed, something shifted for him. I could see it in the Publix parking lot, in the way he said the girl from sophomore year, especially, like it had been sitting on his chest for a long time, and he was relieved to finally say it out loud. That's not nothing. That's actually the whole thing. That's the moment a person starts becoming someone different. The coin stayed in my pocket. I've thought about what Admiral Sutter said. Carry it until you find someone who earns it. And I think I misunderstood him for a long time. I thought earning it meant doing something dramatic, something measurable, a mission, a sacrifice, a documented act of valor. But Amy used to tell me I made everything too complicated. She was almost always right about that. Maybe earning it just means waking up one day and deciding to be accountable for yourself. Maybe it means writing a handwritten letter to someone you wronged in sophomore year and actually mailing it. Maybe it means sitting with discomfort instead of having your father make a call to dissolve it. I don't know if Spencer Aldrich is going to do the work. I genuinely don't. People surprise you in both directions. But I know he's 31 years younger than Robert was when Robert stopped being correctable. He still has time. Time is the only resource that doesn't respond to money or connections or who your father plays golf with on Saturday mornings. You either use it or you don't. That's the only math that matters. Amy knew that. She lived like she knew it. I'm still learning.